In Assignment 2 Ethical Case Studies, Mike Guild and I had the pleasure of analyzing case number 4, the Chemical Valley. To start off, it's important to recognize the key facts and events surrounding this case. In August of 2012, residents received warning that there was a chemical spill in the St. Clair River from a docked freighter. However, the residents of Sarnia received this warning 3 days after the spill took place, meaning this contaminated water had time to enter all of their homes. Several communities, more than 10,000 lives were impacted by the ethylbenzene chemical spill. It specifically proved to be a large impact on the Omgiawan First Nations community. Since then, there has been a great rise in hospitalizations for respiratory and cardiovascular illnesses, as well as cancers, and birth rates have also been affected in the Sarnia area. However, over the years, there have been a number of alert systems developed to improve trust and transparency. There are a number of ethical issues and challenges surrounding this Chemical Valley case, one being that the fact the public received notice from the Ontario Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change 3 days after the spill had happened. This means that the contaminated water entered people's homes and was used to drink, shower with, cook with, and wash clothes. The ministry sat on this information for 3 days and failed to warn citizens, ultimately putting them at great risk. Another ethical issue is the government's lack of concern for the Indigenous communities nearby. It is stated in this article, the surrounding First Nations communities and reserves collect their water from the St. Clair River. That means that they would have been affected by the chemical spill, just as much as the citizens of Sarnia. The government's lack of concern restricts these people's basic human rights and enables this lower quality of life. The third and final ethical issue we discussed was that there was no government follow-up on these findings. This is a problem because how will citizens of the community trust that the water they are receiving in their homes in the future will not be further contaminated?
Focused Group. The actors we've chosen are the Amjinan First Nation community residing in the Sarnia Indian Reserve, number 45. Ethical responsibilities. The ethical responsibilities of the Amjinan First Nation community would be to communicate with honesty and concern for others towards the government to protect both the environment and the citizens that live in it. This preserves the community and those who are residing in its rights, values, and well-being in order to have a higher quality of life.
Evaluate ethical issues/challenges. 1. Constant chemical spills into the St. Clair River. 2. The insufficient amount of government aid received for many years. 3. The only source of water to rely on for drinking, cooking, and hygiene is polluted due to lack of support. The ethical issue faced by the Amjingnan First Nations community would be the constant chemical spills into the St. Clair River and the lack of government aid they receive when this type of problem happens. The spills have been an ongoing issue for the past 20 years and the government ceases to take action. This water from the lake is what they rely on to drink, cook, and shower with. Generating alternatives. 1 is to stop pursuing their wants and needs for the community. 2. Turn to a different or bigger group such as the WHO, the World Health Organization. 3. Push for the government to hold the companies more accountable for dumping substances accidentally into rivers, and push for greater monitoring of water supplies daily.
A. Analyzing alternative options. 1. If the Anjanawn First Nation community were to stop fighting for what they believe in, then nothing would change. They would still be under the same constant fear that their water is contaminated by chemicals, which could give major health complications in the future. 2. Turning to the World Health Organization sounds like a good idea on paper, but the World Health Organization has a lot of other problems that they have to deal with, and for them to take action here is just unlikely. To pursue the World Health Organization to look into the workings of a small town in Ontario while they have bigger problems with entire countries would be a waste of time and energy. 3. Pushing for the government to ensure that companies aren't spilling into the rivers and pushing for more frequent monitoring of the water seems like the best option. This option ensures that the water would stay cleaner more often and would allow for faster response if anything were to happen. D. Deciding the most ethical alternative. Pushing for the government to hold companies more accountable for dumping substances accidentally into the river and pushing for better monitoring of the water supplies would be the most ethical decision to make. This would ensure that companies would be less likely to have chemical spills and would also allow the Anjanang First Nation community to have time to react so that they don't consume or go near the contaminated water if something were to happen. This would entail that less Anjanang First Nations people would get sick or adopt respiratory problems.